Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. Thank you guys for joining us again.
Yeah, it's so nice. We're here again, and we have more updates, more information with the CDC and the WHO. Things are moving along kind of as predicted.
Most definitely. And there's more wrenches in the chat room, and some of you might not recognize that you got a wrench. Just want to let you know. See you, Nicole. You got a wrench there. Good to see Nuclear Quantum Lasers. We see Sherry. We see Ellie, 1978. Sylvain. Season of the Witch. Kayla. Mr. Floyd. Great to see you guys. Bethany. Brittany. Much love, 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 love. There's a lot going on, obviously. Now, if we look at the official numbers, which, we're really taking them with a grain of salt. You got 6,172 confirmed cases, 6,070 in mainland China, 16 Taiwan, and you got 14 in Thailand, 10 in Hong Kong, 7 Japan, 7 Macau, 7 Malaysia, 7 Singapore, 5 Australia, 5 US. It's showing France at 4, but France just confirmed the 5th. And we see 132 deaths and 112 people recovered so far. And again, we know these figures, they're not even close to what's happening. This is what they're giving us as far as official figures right now.
Right, and that's not very good odds, even if they're smudged. They're pretty horrible odds, actually. That's very disconcerting. I don't like that. And what's this thing here?
Well, if you look at this, you would get hopeful, because it looks like, oh, okay, it was going exponentially up, and now it just blipped over a little bit to the side. So, that would give you a little bit of hope. But a lot of people are saying, that's just perhaps just going on with counting and things. And they ran out of tests. You can see the epicenter right here. Obviously, it's in the Wuhan area. So we're gonna keep an eye on this, most definitely. But the thoughts are it's still a lot more than that. I mean, way more than that. And we still have the WHO mulling emergency declaration as the toll officially tops 130. And I was just listening to them doing a live speech, and they were praising China and China's efforts. Interesting, because you got the CDC, which is out of Atlanta, U.S. Organization, being very critical. You got the WHO, which just seems to be patting the Chinese government on the back. There's a lot more to this. A lot more to this than meets the eye. And let me just see. Okay, we want to bring this over. Trying to get all this organized. There's so much stuff going on. Now, where is its source? Again, what really happened? That's what everybody's trying to figure out. What's the true case of what's going on? And we've been following this by ORXIV as they keep putting out new papers. And we're going to talk about the bat, quote unquote, situation. Interesting that bats are a perfect vector for transmission, because they are kind of like a super mammal in some ways, from what I've been reading. And they can host a lot of pathogens and yet not get sick, which is pretty wild. It's kind of like the perfect vehicle. Yeah, and as Brittany says, more prayers. Yes, we don't want to panic. Most definitely not panic. But at the same time, I don't think in these times you would want to do anything that would be silly or stupid or put yourself at risk. So kind of whenever possible, I would still, just err on the side of caution. So getting back to Dr. Eric Feigl-Ding, mortality numbers from a new study in the Wuhan hospital shows mortality rate is at 11%. So that's pretty high. Wowzers is what he says. Much higher than expected, because, officially they were saying 3 to 4%. We knew that wasn't accurate. There's no way it was 3 to 4% with what we're hearing coming out of China. So they're putting it at 11%, and that still could be a little optimistic, as we're going to see. But it's just so curious as to what exactly is this virus. What really is it? And as we saw yesterday, we saw another doctor doing his analysis and saying there's no way this naturally occurred in nature. There's just no way, because you just don't get the type of impact that you have that we're seeing here. And correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't the WHO declare an international emergency for the Ebola virus? I believe they did about 6 months ago. Maybe it was 8 months ago. So, I don't understand why they would do that and not this, because, the potential for spreading here is so much higher. Obviously, Ebola's horrific in its fatality rate. I understand that. But, this, it seems obvious to most people here, especially when you have a lot of doctors questioning this. It has such a higher chance than the Ebola virus that we've seen in Africa of spreading across the globe.
Yeah, and it's that case of the cognitive dissonance where they're telling us one thing. They're telling us we're seeing all this information, and they're telling us not to believe our lying eyes. And, what you see is pretty much, from what I understand, is what we're really getting from other sources. It's matching up with, as far as the not so good information is coming in. It's matching up with the inside sources. So when you have matches like that, it makes sense. But then we have these other things like the WHO and the CDC. There's like mixed messages, and that tells me that when something doesn't make sense, it's usually not true. So I tend not to really believe the World Health Organization or the CDC. I think we all really need to take care of ourselves and go within, order our masks, take precaution, a lot of precaution, and just, kind of be together, stick together. And I don't know, whenever you guys have information to throw into the chat for health, for herbal remedies and stuff, please do that. That's always really good. And if you're going to use it, please do your research. Do a little bit of research before you, do something like do an herbal remedy, because there's little tweaks you might have to make before it'll work.
Yeah, definitely. And so, a lot of people are talking about Edgar Cayce predictions. Of course, we've talked about Nostradamus. And, obviously a lot of people are talking about the V word, and there's so much different news coming out with that. Mm-hmm. So here you see, he's surprised at the numbers. They're definitely not, they're not good news. And yet also we've hit one of the things that Dr. Eric's been talking about a ton is the RO factor, which we've seen everywhere, all over, big variants, but all of them that you look at, it's way higher than the Spanish flu. So, that's right there. That just says, what's up with the WHO? What is up with this? And a lot of us, I think most of us, don't trust the mainstream media, anything that comes from them. So all these links are going to be attached, so you guys could go and pour through this. And, as they're trying to figure out, I do think there's those that know exactly what's happening. But as we try to figure out what's going on, so this study over here shows, again, it's 67% the males that are getting hit, and 68% males, 32% female, and the majority is males in their 50s. So this is what it's showing right now, and this is also showing that 11% mortality. So, not good, very disconcerting numbers. And again, you got to wonder, about this in general. And there's a lot of stuff coming out now as this is one of the big things here. Harvard chemical biology scientist arrested for receiving over $2 million from Chinese Wuhan University. So he's been charged with lying to the DOD, the Defense Department. And we always wonder, grassy knoll. We wonder, when people get arrested, like Lee Harvey Oswald, and then, Jack Ruby takes him out before he could, talk anymore, or anything else could be gotten from him. You always wonder, is this a culprit, or is this a scapegoat? What's exactly going on here? Was it a setup? I think we need to be suspicious about everything, especially when we see a lot of this coming out that's making it look in a certain direction. And recognize too that there's been a lot of tension between the U.S. and China, which we know there's a deep state. Everybody knows. I think everybody knows that. And then there's controllers that control everything pretty much at the top, and it's one of those things that's compartmentalized. So not everybody knows exactly what's going on at each level. You have a lot of really good people that are trying to figure things out, and think they're doing their country a service, and are really working for the public, and perhaps are not aware that they're really working for a machine that's much bigger. But at the same time, we're just looking at all the puzzle pieces that they're giving us. Federal prosecutors have brought charges against Harvard University's Department of Chemistry and Chemical Biology chair for lying to the Defense Department about money he received from China's Wuhan University of Technology. Charles M. Lieber, the chair of Harvard's Department of Chemistry and Chemical Biology, allegedly violated federal law by not disclosing his involvement in China's 1,000 Talents plan. And we'll look at that too. To the Defense Department, including money he received according to the charging document. The charges brought by the U.S. government against Professor Lieber are extremely serious, Harvard said in a statement. Harvard is cooperating with federal authorities, including the National Institutes of Health, and is initiating its own review of the alleged misconduct. The documents presented by federal prosecutors on Tuesday allege Lieber was paid $50,000 a month, along with $158,000 in living expenses, and $1.74 million to set up a research lab at Wuhan University. The money was allegedly transferred using China's 1,000 Talents program, which aims to poach Western science and technology experts and bring them to work in China in those fields. The National Institute of Health was also allegedly lied to by Lieber regarding his involvement in the 1,000 Talents recruitment plan and his affiliation with China's Wuhan University. NBC News reported law enforcement has confirmed Lieber is in federal custody as of Tuesday. In 2011, Lieber was featured in a Harvard magazine article for his work on virus-sized transistors. Lieber has also worked for the past decade on design and synthesis of nanoscale parts that will enable him to build tiny electronic devices. Is it a cloudy day out, guys? I don't know. I can't tell. The arrest comes as Wuhan is under quarantine after the spread of the novel coronavirus, with thousands infected, many more dead. Wuhan has been confirmed as the epicenter of the biological crisis. The National File reported last week on video evidence that shows Wuhan hospitals are running out of beds as infected patients pile up on the floors. Disturbing video footage posted on YouTube shows a Chinese doctor, we all know about that, begging for help. There's been more than one. It goes into that whole thing. So, my God, can you imagine that? And I'm not saying he is, guilty, but can you imagine the type of person that would, for money, set something like this out on the public? Whoever it is, whoever is ultimately the people that actually say, okay, do this thing. How inhuman are they? I mean, they can't be human. And if they're doing it just for money, for greed, for comforts and luxuries, it's just beyond disgusting. To me, it just boggles my mind. It completely boggles my mind.
Yeah, it's just not very comforting knowing that these extremely highly educated people in their stuffy suits are now, being taken away in cuffs, it really makes you wonder what the heck is going on. And also, I think to look at this from the perspective of beings or people that are probably not susceptible to this. So they don't have anything to worry about as they watch us scamper around like rats, and we're scared and we don't know what to do. And that's where we do need to take our power back, and not let them get the upper hand, not let them, move us around in fear. But at the same time, we have to take precaution, because that's just what you do. Yeah, I don't like seeing these really super rich, well-educated, stuffy suited people, being taken away in cuffs. It doesn't do me any good. I mean, it doesn't make me feel any better. I mean, this is just one guy. You imagine how messy it is right around his level and up. I mean, it's got to be pretty nasty.
It is, and MM says high education doesn't equate high intelligence. No, and I could, I could vouch for that in my own family as well. With some things I've experienced from highly educated people in my own family, and then, calling names. It's like, oh my God, such a child. It's just, but this is what we have. And then we have this Zero Hedge. Is this the man behind the global coronavirus pandemic? So in light of growing speculation, most of it within less than official circles, that the official theory for the spread of the coronavirus epidemic, namely because somebody ate bat soup at a Wuhan seafood and animal market. God, that's disgusting. Yeah, if we weren't, if we didn't go vegetarian already, that will make you go just looking at that market, just nasty. So again, things are starting to get peeled back, and yeah, it is a fabricated farce, is right. The real reason behind the viral spread, according to this article, and this is Tyler Durden at Zero Hedge, is because of a weaponized version of the coronavirus, one of which may have originally been obtained from Canada, and we were talking about that like 2 days ago as well, was released by Wuhan's Institute of Virology, accidental or not, a top level 4 biohazard lab which was studying the world's most dangerous help wanted notice. Most dangerous pathogens. Well, that was the most dangerous help wanted notice ever, to come work on this type of thing. Perhaps it'd be a good idea for the same Wuhan Institute of Virology to remove the following help wanted notice posted on November 18th. According to which the Institute is seeking to hire 1 or 2 postdoctorate fellows who will use bats to research the molecular mechanism that allows Ebola and SARS-associated coronaviruses to lie dormant for a long time without causing diseases. And, I'm not sure who it was. I saw somebody twice in there was saying, wait to the 3rd generation. Yes.
I can't pronounce it, but Zushi Ketatamo Shift says, you think it's bad now, wait for the 3rd mutation. Find a cure in 2nd mutation, and 3rd will not work. We need to end it at the 2nd stage. Or we are effed. Stay safe and protected protected your loved ones. Yeah. So yeah, what is this that we're seeing here, and is this something that is combined? There's been a lot of thought that this might be something that's combined. And is the first wave, is the second wave going to be different than the first? The third wave going to be different than the second? Those are big questions. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's saying the mutation is what's going to change things, make things different. So that's always fun to get information like that in here. And, I've heard a lot of information about the V word, one of those coming out. And, I'm not going to do it. Won't go near it. Haven't done anything like that. And I can't remember how many years. I think it's kind of a, follow the money, really. Just follow the money.
Yeah, it's even bigger than follow the money, I think. Yeah, I think, as we know, there's a lot of people that are well aware of the the whole 500 million and all that. And again, it goes back to the Sumerian records too when we look at that. So yeah, this is the actual job posting right here, Wuhan Institute of Virology. All these things, are these just all little coincidences, or is this also is this too much? Is this too perfect to have all these things popping up so quickly and easily to give us a certain viewpoint?
Yeah, to line them up in a row so we can follow a certain story. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's because there's a pretty clear picture that seems to be coming out here, and yeah, and we are getting to. I saw somebody talking about what scares me is after the 14 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's that going to look like? What's the whole rate of progress going to look like? Okay, let's go over here just to say, guys, don't worry. Johnson & Johnson, they have us. They're working on developing a vaccine. So, it's going to be okay.
Thank God.
And we know they have our best interests in mind. They don't care about profits. And, they're on this.
No, yeah, Johnson & Johnson, the ones that sold us the baby powder that we all put on our babies' butts that later turned out to be, could cause cancer. Yeah, that Johnson & Johnson.
Yeah, so never fear. No. So let's take it over this way again. So, this is fascinating stuff. Awful lot of stuff that's coming out. So why is it notable? Because as it turns out, this is a job posting for the lab of Dr. Peng Zhou, a researcher at Wuhan Institute of Virology, and the leader of the bat virus infection and immunization group. And this gets into some more of his background. He received his PhD in Wuhan Virus Research Institute in 2010, has worked on bat virus and immunology in Australia and Singapore. In 2009, he took the lead in starting the research on immune mechanism of bat long-term carrying and transmitting virus in the world. So far, he has published more than 30 SCI articles, including first and corresponding authors Nature, Cell Host Microbe, and PNAS. At present, research on bat virus and immunology is continuing and has received support from the National QiGong Fund, a pilot project of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, and the major project of the Ministry of Science and Technology. Below is a list of several recent papers, and there's some interesting ones in there for sure. Really, it's all looking at the viruses using, how bats could be used as a vector, how they can carry things without getting sick. And so this brings us to the punchline, courtesy of Wuhan Institute of Virology. Here's a press release from Dr. Zhou's lab entitled How Bats Carry Viruses Without Getting Sick. Bats are known to harbor highly pathogenic viruses like Ebola, Marburg, Hendra, Nipah, and SARS, and CoV, and yet they do not show clinical signs of disease. In a paper published in the journal Cell Host and Microbe on February 22nd, scientists at Wuhan Institute of Virology in China find that in bats, an antiviral immune pathway called the sting interferon pathway is dampened, and bats can maintain just enough defense against illness without triggering a heightened immune reaction. We believe there is a balance between bats and the pathogens they carry, says senior author Peng Zhou. The work demonstrated that in order to maintain a balance with viruses, bats may have evolved to dampen certain pathways. In humans and other mammals, an immune-based over-response to these and other pathogenic viruses can trigger severe illness. For example, in humans, an activated sting pathway is linked with severe autoimmune diseases. In human history, we've been chasing infectious disease one after another, says Zhou, but bats appear to be a super mammal to these deadly viruses. By identifying a weakened but not defunct sting pathway, researchers have some new insight into how bats fine-tune antiviral defenses to balance an effective but not an overt response against viruses. And the authors hypothesize that this defense strategy evolved as part of three interconnected features of bat biology. They're flying mammals, they have long lifespan, and they host a large viral reservoir. Adaptation to flight likely caused positive selection of multiple bat innate immune and DNA damage repair genes. These adaptations may have shaped certain antiviral pathways, like sting, interferon, and others, to make them a good viral reservoir host and achieve a tolerable balance. And, it goes on about him being the pioneer in this. And then, this whole program that they have as well, and this is him right here. So they're wondering, is this the guy at ground zero? Is this the one, that is behind all this, the real brains behind it all? And as always, we'll have the links for you guys there. Chinese recruitment operation targets U.S. universities. And this is exactly what we're talking about, the Chinese strategy called the 1,000 Talents Plan. And it's recruited 7,000 researchers, including Nobel laureates, a bipartisan Senate report found.
So, yeah, that's a lot of really good information on the bats. But what I just gathered from that is that bats simply make a really good medium to carry these viruses. That's right.
Yeah, basically. And so, we know the bigger picture here going on. And we've talked about it. We are in a period of tremendous earth changes. And we really don't know exactly what is natural and what's Memorex, to say it that way. As we know, there's so much technology out there that we are going to be slowly, seeing rolled out. And we talked about Tesla. We talked about his earthquake machine over 100 years ago, right? Well over 100 years ago. That was like 130 years ago. And of course, we had that big quake yesterday. And when you look at everything that goes on, how do you know what to believe? Yet at the same time, there's tons of technology out there to manufacture so many things. But bottom line is there a resource grab underway in one sense to control the places that are going to be bread baskets where a lot of food can be grown? Because one of the things, we look at this now, and now this is the big thing. This is the thing that perhaps scares most people the most, at least those people that are awake and aware. But we forget about, the famine that's building around the globe from all the flooding, all the disasters going on. It's a perfect storm of disasters. And, the famine situation, the food shortages, that's major. And it's going to become more and more prevalent as well. And so we know there's been competition between the U.S. and China to control certain areas. And China's all over Africa. And then, the U.S. has military operations in anywhere between 70 and 90% of the countries in the world, period. So there's this collision course between the U.S. and China that's been very apparent as China's been ascending. But this, you see, that's the part that doesn't make sense to me, because China's been in ascendancy. So why would they release it on their own people? Why would they do that unless the government was maybe in fear that it couldn't maintain control and there was going to be such an upwelling? But we've seen riots in Hong Kong, but we haven't really seen them all throughout China en masse to where the government would be worried about losing power and control of the military.
Well, I also keep thinking about how 5G was rolled out there, and like the social scoring and things like that. Did the 5G weaken these poor people's immune systems to the point their 3D bodies couldn't fight off this virus? That's what I'm wondering, is all the EMF pollution.
I think there's so much that's out there that lowers our immune system right now. Yeah, as we've talked about in the past, many people might not be aware, but if you had a carrot, that was grown 100 years ago, the nutrients in it would have been so much more dense than one now. It would have so much more nutritional value than now, because the soil's depleted, the methods of farming, and let alone not even talking about GMOs, because a truly organic carrot has at least 4 times the nutrients than one that's genetically modified, even though the genetically modified one might look big and robust. It's really empty when you get down to it. It doesn't have a lot of nutrition. And so over here we see 200 Americans to face quarantine in California. A chartered flight carrying U.S. citizens arrived in Alaska early Wednesday morning for refueling and additional screenings. And these are people coming from Wuhan. The passengers are mostly diplomats, and they were evacuated via a chartered flight that landed on U.S. soil on Wednesday. They'll be quarantined for 72 hours. And sorry about the garbage truck in the background, guys. But could be kept isolated for up to 2 weeks if they have any symptoms. They should be kept isolated for 2 weeks, period. Because also recognize that these studies are showing that 2% will never have symptoms and will never be sick. They're going to be the bats. They're just going to basically transfer the virus off to new people. So that's crazy,
Yeah, it is. They're just going to let them kind of walk out. But that gives this a tone of deliberateness to all of it. It just reeks of we're doing this to you on purpose, but we can't really say it. Hence the narcissistic behavior that we're kind of dealing with, or it's like a covert narcissism. We're being told one thing and being asked to do another thing, and don't believe your lying eyes. And it's just so not right. I mean, it reeks.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And so, this is what we were talking about pulling major diplomats and such out. So, I think that's crazy. Quarantine them for 3 days. And then if they look sick, they might be isolated. Everybody should be just quarantined, period. Mm-hmm. They really should be. This is crazy. Department of State, which chartered the flight, said places aboard were offered to government workers with unfilled seats sold to U.S. citizens on a reimbursable basis, though it was unclear if the agency was offering to pay back the reported $1,000 per ticket cost. And it was originally scheduled to land in civilian Ontario International Airport, some 30 miles from LA, was diverted to the March Air Reserve military base. Well, that's a good idea. Yeah. Don't bring them into a public place as well. Yeah, they should be quarantined for 2 weeks minimum, and there's just not enough being done, and it just makes everybody even more suspicious because it's obvious there's not enough being done. Mm-hmm. To us, it's completely obvious. Well, Russia closes the border with China. At first, they were closing like 3 points. Now they have closed their entire border with China, and that's a big border. That's a real big border. I mean, the biggest border in the world is U.S. and Canada. But this is one of the next biggest borders. It might be the second biggest border. And look what people are doing now. There's no masks, so they're sticking their heads in plastic bottles. I kid you not. Look at this. And some people are laughing at them, but they're scared. And hey, there's no mask. What am I gonna do? I don't know. Give me something. Yeah, right. Plastic bags. Walking around in plastic bags.
The instructions said don't put plastic bags over your head.
I know, right? As we look through, I mean, look at everybody's work. It's a new fashion statement.
Yes.
Yeah, she's got her shower cap on, but she's got her eyes exposed.
Yeah.
And this one's wearing a motorcycle helmet. And there you go.
Awesome.
Now, I got to tell you guys, really, there's a little gray alien under this. This is how he's checking out how humans react to the virus. It's a little gray alien in there right now. There you go.
Oh, my.
Wow. But, when you're terrified, that's what you do. So look at this. We have today's announcement by federal law enforcement is a culmination of cases where a Harvard professor received thousands for China, right? A member of the PLA was at BU conducting U.S. military research, and a third arrest at Logan for smuggling vials of medical research. And over here you see this tweet. There's more than one deadly virus emanating from China, and they're saying it attacks the U.S. in a variety of ways every day. And this is the question: did China steal the coronavirus? So obviously we have a lot of fingers being pointed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Heather says, I wonder how many paid crisis actors are in China. I'm not sure, Heather, and I've really been weighing that a lot in my heart. Like, are they setting these things up, to scare us, to keep us from going out and spending money? But then again, we do get these other sources, inside sources that are extremely credible, telling us that the information being provided to the public mainstream is not matching up, and things truly are as they seem, and they're really, really bad. So yeah, I mean, I was really thinking this has got to be set up, this has got to be manufactured, but unfortunately it's looking more and more and more like it's not set up and it's not manufactured, and these people really are dying, and things are truly as bad as they seem. But I prefer the line of thought that it was made up. That would make me feel more comforted. It really would, than it being real.
Yeah, so we were talking about iPad Go, things that make you go, Yeah, I mean, The Simpsons, there's been so many things that have, as we got 555 in the chat room. That's 555, a good number there.
I got 590.
Oh, you show 590? Okay, well, now we're at 578. But anyway, it's changing. And we still have all these coming out. There's still people that are just like lying on the street or in a public place. And unfortunately, you see this all too often, and we really wonder how much of that's going on out there. I don't think it's all crisis actors. I mean, this would be the biggest play ever done in humanity's history if that was the case. Plus what we're hearing from people on the inside. And just check this out. This guy was worried about getting home. Wow. That just makes you say, wow. Well, he should have remembered to lower that. Self-driving truck. Crazy stuff. And yeah, there are a lot of riled up people, and that's just going to keep intensifying as we've seen some, pretty scary footage. People attacking ambulances, people attacking individuals as well. I've seen so many of them where somebody has been in Wuhan and goes into a neighboring province, and somehow people hear that and they get riled up and they go and attack them, even pulling them out of their house. It's just scary the way people can react when they're terrified and desperate. Absolutely. And now this is day 6 of construction on the hospital, which is going to give 700 to 1,000 beds, which is really a drop in the bucket. This is People's Daily in China. It's amazing how fast they are moving. I mean, you would never see anything move this fast in the United States because of our bureaucracy and all the regulation. But, it's a double-edged sword. The regulation hopefully keeps us safer. And you got to wonder if that hospital is going to collapse when they get it done. Who knows how fast they've gone. And yet it's a drop in the bucket when you have the type of growth that we're looking at. As you see here, the coronavirus geometric progression suggests 100,000 infections in a week. Bianco research mapped out the geometric progression of the coronavirus cases. We're on track for 100K in a week. And where does it go from there? Well, you could see, is what we're looking at. Boom, boom, boom. Let's see. Today is the 29th. Boom. And then 1 million would be around February 8th. You're looking at 737,000. Now, these are, quote unquote, more like the official. As we had said yesterday, we had heard of over 3 million cases yesterday. and I haven't gotten any updates. I haven't heard back from anybody, so I'm getting a little more concerned with what's going on with the people that are out of the country. So this is interesting, and there's other ones too, which I didn't include. Just because they didn't seem to be official. You couldn't tell who put them together. But most definitely, it's growing fast. Infection growth is following a geometric progression of 53% a day. And the RO is 2 to 2.5. So we have seen ROs up in the 5 and over 5, like up to 5.6, which would increase this exponentially again. So we're just going to have to watch this, and everybody should take precautions as much as possible. And so Macau is a near ghost town, and this is kind of like China's Vegas, basically, and there's nobody there.
Wow, and that's pretty amazing. Announced drafted measures to keep visitors away and contain the new coronavirus. I don't know. Like, did they do it to their own people? Did they not? Did we do it? It just stinks. I mean, all the information we get coming in stinks of somebody lying and pointing the finger to blame somebody else. And even, I mean, it doesn't really matter right now anymore. We just really have to help each other get through this and send out the good energy and the good vibrations to combat this virus, along with all of the other things that we can do to take care of ourselves. But yeah, I don't like it at all. And it just keeps getting worse. And I am curious, like, what's, the end game? Is it really simply, is it just depopulation? Like, what kind of beings run this place? What kind of beings are in charge? I don't think they're human. I don't. I don't see, well, I have been in relationships where people can do pretty nasty things to other people. So knowing that, well, yeah, maybe there are beings up at the top, or humans up at the top, doing this to other human beings. And, at some point in their lives, they'll have to answer to that. But right now, we need to help each other. We need to go within and pull ourselves up out of the muck and the mire, and not just totally surrender to the fear. But again, I can kind of understand why these people are totally freaking out. I think if you were to watch somebody die of seizures from a fever in front of your face, then you would take any measure you need to take to keep yourself and your family protected.
Most definitely. And gosh, there's been so many articles talking about people looking for prepper properties. So many articles lately. And because more people are waking up to the fact that we are in dangerous times, most definitely. We don't want to be fear-bound. But for me, at the same time, I enjoy being far away from everything. I really do. And even though we're in a tiny little place, I still love just getting out there in the desert where I can't see anybody anywhere. Right. There's zero people. And when we go out there, there's never anybody. We never see anybody. We're amazed. We did see, I wonder if that one couple is still out there camping. Yeah, it was, and we were wondering about that because we haven't seen anybody out in the area that we frequent. And there was a couple camping, and they set up a pretty good sized camp, and you could tell that they know what they're doing. They got everything organized, their tent camp, and so I enjoy it. I just like getting away from civilization. I love it. And here you see now, first cases of illness confirmed in Finland. And so this is also a confirmed case of infection in Finland. The Finnish health authorities said it was a Chinese person who had entered Wuhan. She's in isolation ward in hospital in Lapland. About 15 other people may have been exposed to the virus. Wow. The authorities are monitoring her condition. Swiss and Austrian airlines also no longer fly to China. Think about what's happening in China economically now. So, if we want to go that route and think very suspiciously that this is something that is manufactured, Well, who's getting hurt the most? I would say China, and we don't know what it's going to do when it comes abroad as far as the rates of infection, the fatality rate as well. We don't know if it's going to be higher or lower. There's a lot of thought to, is this going to be something that affects you according to your blood type and your DNA? That's a question too. Will it be not as potent against certain blood types, not as potent against certain lineages? Or what we're going to see with that? We don't know. And so again, that's why, where are we going to be a month from now? I personally think, again, limiting exposure to public places, like if you are somebody that typically runs to the store every, 3 times a week or what have you, then maybe just thinking about it a little bit deeper and maybe planning to try to do a shopping that's going to last you 2 weeks. Because we don't know. Maybe it won't be as bad in the rest of the world as it is in China right now. Maybe it will burn out, peter out. Maybe it'll get a lot less lethal and end up just affecting people, hopefully like a common cold. It could go the other way too, though. So we don't know. And obviously we have suspicions about the manufactured aspect of this. And if it is manufactured, then that makes it scarier, because you don't know if this is, that ticking time bomb that, as somebody in the chat room had said, wait till it goes to stage 3, and mutates into a even more potent direction. And so you see here what Basto has 80 employees tested for coronavirus after the illness of 4 employees. An automotive supplier, Webasto, has around 80 colleagues tested for the coronavirus. And this is all basically out of Finland and Germany. Coronavirus in Munich. So 2 suspected cases in Saxony, Anhalt. It's definitely a scary situation. And China frantically shuts down the stock market to prevent a coronavirus sell-off. Boy, man, if you have a lot of investments, and thankfully we don't really have any investments because we have nothing to worry about there. The investments that we have are in food in the pantry, things like that, survivalist type of things. But honestly, if you have a lot of money invested in Chinese markets, oof. You got to have a sick stomach right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There is got to be a lot of people who are waking up not really happy, quite grumpy, quite cranky. Actually, because money, well, it all boils down to the almighty dollar. So whoever is doing this is lining their pockets too in some way, shape, or form. We can pretty much guarantee that, because it all boils down to money. Money, and more money, and I can hardly wait until one day, hopefully, we have a society where people can trade on their gifts and their talents and their goodwill instead of, trading on a money thing, and I'll never really understand the thing with the money that trades online. What is that called? I can't even think of it right now. The money that you can get online, Bitcoin. Yeah, I'll never understand Bitcoin, because it seems like, people explain it takes them like an hour to explain how Bitcoin will be safe under any circumstances, even if there's an outage. If it takes you that long to explain how a certain kind of money works, how can I trust that? I want something pretty simple, like, trading, bartering. I mean, something that's in your face, totally tangible. But yeah, this is really going to hurt a lot of pockets, and then it's going to line a lot other pockets.
Excuse me, guys. If it was China that did this, and released it purposefully out to the public, and we're seeing 11% fatality of their own citizens, then I would think that it would be orchestrated so that it would target people of other DNA and blood types, specifically trying to be as politically correct as possible at a higher rate. So I guess we'll find out, because, if it is the most deadly in China and then weakens, then that would make me think that they probably didn't release it on their own people. If it is more deadly when it gets into Europe, and the United States, maybe Africa, then maybe it is really something that, they did knowing that they were going to take a hit, but it wasn't going to be as big a hit as elsewhere. And, we've talked about the inevitability of China and the United States confrontation. And if you think about it in those terms, as far as like warfare, this could be something that would be a way of softening up your adversary. And we saw through history, right? We saw blankets with smallpox given to natives. Yeah. Knowing what it's going to do. So is that what this is? Is this a high-tech, blanket with smallpox situation that's going to run through?
It's going to torture generations of people. That's, what was done to the Native Americans wasn't just done to like our ancestors as far as where, if the body dies and it stops there. No, this is a trauma that lasts for generations. And to make sure they did it really good, they went into the ether and screwed up the generations from there with ritual practices. And then they do these horrible atrocities to these people. So, human beings are very capable of doing this to others, for their own benefit, or just following orders. And they write it off so simply as, well, yeah, it was just following orders. But it traumatizes a whole generation. And then, the younger, they have to deal with these traumas, it has to be dealt with. It will unfold in the DNA at some point. Fear is something that stays from parent to child, and on and on and on.
Yeah, I remember something. Soul Reviver saying The Economist 2019. I do remember something. I mean, everything is out there. Everything is out there. It's kind of, everything's telegraphed. It's all telegraphed. So I don't know which one he was referring to. Oh yeah, is this one the meaning of the cryptic?
I think was it the panda?
The panda?
I don't know.
Does anybody know? I because this stuff is interesting.
Also, somebody said look up the Batcoin 2020.
The Batcoin 2020?
Yeah.
Batcoin. One word?
Yeah.
See, a lot of us have stuff.
I don't see it. I'll have to look it up. But what's that? Some fruit bat. Oh, maybe that's. I don't know if that's.
Samoan fruit bats will be featured.
Yeah, we like this stuff.
Yeah, it's curious, and I think Bruno has a new video up on the whole Kobe thing that was telegraphed too. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy, but it's all out there. It's all out there. Okay, so the panda's at the top equals China. You see all these weird things, and the Denver airport. How about those? The Denver airport murals are just disgusting, and why would we want to see those in the first place? I mean, who makes these decisions? To put these things up in our face. When you see these, horrible things, who wants to see this? Look at this. I mean, people crying. It looks like they're holding dead babies. You see very Nazi-ish looking, and there's the peace dove right there getting the sword in the butt. It's like, why do we want to look at this stuff? It's horrible. Why did they put this out? Are they like, people in coffins? The turtle sitting on netting? It shows the sick and twisted minds that are behind so much of this.
Yeah, they are. They are, and they get away with it. And they keep getting away with it. And that's why we have to be a little bit ruthless in taking care of ourselves and taking control of our health and really doing what you can to get out of this system as far as, using the medical system. I mean, one of the biggest things that you can do is really cut the sugar, because once you do that, all of your herbal remedies are going to work like 5 million times better. They knew exactly what they were doing when they totally flooded the system with sugar, and that really screwed us up and dumbed us down, and it makes our vibrations low. And so that's the number one thing, you guys, is our diet. And we can fight back with our money too. Like, really, do we really have to spend this next dollar? Because that's their God, is their dollar. So knowing that, and doing what we can do, I think Nicole mentioned in there earlier, barter whenever you can locally, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing to do if you can. I know we're not all in that position, but at least maybe the next time you spend some money, just think, where is this going? Do I really need it? Because ultimately it's lining their pockets.
Well, really, what does the money represent? It represents our time, our effort, our focus, because that's what we have to chase after in order to survive in the system. So that's why, getting out of the system is something they fight every way that they can. It's crazy. Like Washington State, you cannot collect your own rainwater. In certain states, you have to be plugged in to the grid. You cannot get off the grid because, again, that's a way of controlling us. So I love the off-grid movement. I love the whole, tiny home movement, RV movement. People are saying, okay, you tell me I need a 4,000 square foot house or a 3,000 square foot house. I could get by with 250 square feet when you get down to it, and I'll be out in nature more anyway. And maybe I'll actually, enjoy myself and ground myself more when I'm not just simply chasing after dollars all the time. And they don't want us getting out of the system. That's the thing they don't want at all, because that means true freedom, getting out of the system. So, China's shutting down their stock market. This is obviously crushing China financially, crushing. And this could definitely slow down their ascendancy. So, that whole part gets me a little bit suspicious of everything that's so falling nicely into place that we could pin this totally on the Chinese government, which I do think is, to me, the scariest governmental system that's on the planet. With dictator for life, with, Big Brother on steroids. And obviously they have all those internment centers that's, undesirables, quote unquote, go to. I mean, it's the worst system that there is in my mind. Yet at the same time, I'm not sure if they would do this to themselves. Does it just make sense? Unless, I guess time's going to tell. And we'll see if it hits abroad stronger than it's hitting there. And that's a terrifying thought. Coronavirus chaos forces Starbucks to shutter almost half its stores in China. It's the economic impact, too, because China has gotten to be much more powerful than it was economically. It actually has a middle class that's developing. And they do spend money. They go abroad, and they do spend money. So a lot of areas are really hurting now. A 1 kilometer line for face masks in Taiwan. As you see, people lined up just waiting to get their face masks. Meanwhile, while you're lined up, maybe one out of every 30 of those people are already infected. So, that's my mindset. It's like, why would you go out in public if you don't have a mask and get in a big group in order to get a mask to protect you? I don't know. To me, I would just simply stay put. And here, watch stranded Chinese passengers applaud as plane reroutes to quarantine Wuhan. And you do find people that are heroic, in their sense of duty, and will go above and beyond, putting themselves in danger, sacrificing their time, and doing things for other people. So, this particular flight was scheduled to depart from Osaka in Japan and land at its destination, Shanghai. However, at the request of tourists on board, the airline sought and received permission to reroute in China's airspace and make a detour to Wuhan. The 11 crew all volunteered to operate the flight while wearing masks, goggles, and gloves. Some 94 of the passengers were left stranded after a wave of flight cancellations as the coronavirus outbreak gathered pace, but they were finally brought to Wuhan, the heart of the outbreak. And they were able to go home, where they're going to be, unfortunately, probably facing food shortages and all sorts of stuff, but they still wanted to go home, and the crew took them there. Coronavirus vaccine will take over a year to develop, warns big pharma exec. We heard like 6 weeks, we heard 6 months, we've heard all sorts of things. So this is CEO of Novartis, and so he says it could take upwards of a year to find a new vaccine, which he called the outbreak across the world very serious. And, honestly, anybody in that industry at the top levels, I'm super suspicious of, and that's me.
Oh yeah, I mean, totally suspicious of anything any official has to say, because it's probably officially, just something that they were told to say to calm people down. I mean, I haven't watched the news probably since like 2012, 2013, when I realized that everything they say is probably just to get your cackles up, really, and just to stir the fear inside your belly, and then the others, they feed off of your negative energy. So yeah, these officials, they can just stick it, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, thank you for sharing that. From Bangkok to the boulevard of Paris, absence of Chinese tourists hit hard. Yeah, and that's what's happening. So everybody, the global economy is being affected. This really can be, and talking to one of my friends that follows this stuff and has money to invest in things, does think this could be the trigger of the big financial collapse that we've heard about forever. But this really, and even is suspicious that that's the ultimate purpose of this, is the big financial collapse. And, regardless of who let this out into the world, their line of thinking is that this is really all about economics. And, again, usually when you have these big collapses, what happens? People that have a little bit of money to invest, are destroyed. And then the ultra rich become ultra richer, and the consolidation of the wealth into the hands of the few just increases every single time out. That's what happens. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and there's nothing in the middle. And that's what we're seeing, develop time and time again. And then here you see a firm quarantines 3,000 Chinese workers at Indonesian plant over coronavirus fears as well. So, we're only in the beginning stages, guys. This is just the beginning of this, and that's the real scary part.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, you just kind of got to follow common sense at this point, because they're not going to give us the honest information, probably because honestly, a lot of people might actually truly panic, either that, or maybe they really don't know, and they're trying to pull stuff together or pull a story together that people are going to buy. Yeah, I don't like it, you guys. And, some people are saying that the Lysol wipes are really good and that'll kill the virus, and a little bit of maybe bleach and water and a spray bottle and stuff, and just take precaution. That's never going to hurt. I think we can take precaution without being in a state of fear. At least that's what I aim to do. Sometimes I start thinking about it and I get a little afraid, but then I catch myself and I go do something about it, or I learn something about it, and that seems to help calm the fear down, because I don't want to feed the loosh. I don't want to give them the loosh.
Yeah, so, lots of good comments. Zero Rich says his wife is a CNA in a hospital, very concerned. Any of you guys out in the hospitals, please do share what you're seeing and hearing. Again, I think the reaction that we're seeing on a big level, especially from the WHO, is very suspiciously slow to react. Very suspiciously slow. And Kelly Moore says, go watch Resident Evil final chapter. It's on point. Yeah, I've heard all about the, who is the real, what was that? What was the name of that company in Resident Evil? The one that unleashed all that. I forget what it was called now. And where is Wuhan really Raccoon City, as well. And Elderberry kicks ass. So there's a lot of stuff, again, whenever we would go out and shop, I'd load up on hydrogen peroxide. It's cheap as can be. Umbrella Corp. That's right. Umbrella Corp. Exactly. Who is the real Umbrella Corp? Was that Dr. Peng there that we were looking at? One of the mad scientists at Umbrella Corp. It's interesting. We'll be following it, but everybody take precautions. I think you guys will, because you guys are, you're here. You're obviously alert to all the things going on. Unfortunately, there's tons of people out there that are still oblivious and don't have a clue, and so we'll be the ones that end up spreading this from place to place. It's such a good idea right now with everything going on to really band together. Stock up what you can stock up, and have plans. And if you are in a major city, just be aware of everything around you. As again, the cities to me are the most dangerous areas. You get masses of people panicking, and we're seeing that. There was one video I didn't show, which actually showed a guy that came back from Wuhan in a different province. They actually, went into his house, a mob. It's just like something, out of the Salem witch trials, and they pull the guy out of his house and they're beating him. It's crazy what we're seeing out there. So prepare, my friends.
Yeah. That's sound advice. That would work. I think that's and that is what we're doing too. And we're helping you guys prepare. And then people are putting information in the chat, which is helping other people prepare, which is really, really nice. That's what we're here to do. We're here to help and here to spread the word and here to get the word out and hopefully create a decent buffer before this thing gets too embedded into our society. I mean, what I'm focusing on is that it's just going to fizzle out the further it goes.
Yeah, and somebody quoted the movie The Mist. And, if you guys haven't seen it, watch it again, because it gives us a quick view of our society and how we will treat each other when things get bad. And some will be amazingly, selfless and do acts of heroism. And others will do just the opposite. And of course, there's, the most dangerous person in that movie was a person, who just went kind of bonkers. And I'm not going to say exactly who it is, but that mentality is what I think is the most fearful one. When people go extreme in so many ways. So we are going to call this one done for now, and we will probably come back for a second live later on tonight and see what's happening out there. Again, guys, prepare. Everything's going to be, there's going to be shortages like crazy in the near future, I would say. I would bet it on it. as this most definitely does not seem like, again, another one of those things that is hyped and never comes around to be as bad as expected. Unfortunately, this looks to have the trajectory of going in the opposite direction from that.
Yeah, indeed. And nuclear quantum physics is saying, no, it's not namaste time. Yes, it's namaste time, but we're going to come back. It's okay. Find a happy place. We love you guys. God bless. Namaste.
Stay safe, stay prepared, guys. God bless and namaste.